Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
Your dad and I have put together some things for you. We spent a lot of time on this. I hope you enjoy it.
What could it possibly be?
This is your life.
Facing the whole world, completely helpless, completely helpless, oh, without you, completely helpless, oh, without you.
This is Rick, 1965, born in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Rick and his little brother Kent. Kent's holding little brother Rick.
Two lovable brothers. Kent's reaching for his little baby brother. He wants to hold him. He's finally got his eyes open here. He slept through everything else. A little bit older Rick. I think this is in Orlando, when we moved to Orlando the next year in 1966. It's day cake. Looks chocolate. But fun.
Somebody sure looks happy.
When we first moved to Orlando, your dad worked with Martin Marietta. Don't remember it, but we were right off Orange Blossom Trail. Like Kent and Rick both standing at the door, holding up the palm tree. I'm sure Kent didn't push Rick down. Orlando in the first house. The same place in Orlando. Looks like Gatorland. With Kent and Rick and Mother in the background with the flamingos. With Teresa and grandmother, Roger, Kent and Richard, and me.
And grandfather, too.
Lake, when we moved to the lake in Orlando on Pershing Avenue. Kent and Rick were out rowing all by themselves in the lake. Gatorland. There's Roger and Teresa standing in the background, Grandma over to the side. Inside the house, brick fireplace. Your dad's got a stick after Kent. His usual beating time. I think this is at the Christmas time. Back on the lake.
Looks like Mother and the two boys somewhere in the gator's mouth.
This is the front of the house in Orlando on the lake, Pershing Avenue. That's the poinsettias, the double poinsettias that we took to Titusville.
Backyard at the lake. Rocking horse. Fish dinner.
Looks like Kent caught a big one.
Wow, bobber.
There's a fish there,
Oh,
I think. There's the fish.
it's not hardly worth.
It's a birthday party on the lake. Must be Kent. This is all the neighbors coming over. Kent standing with his birthday cake. Swanee River. There's Alan and Kent, the bridge in the background. When your dad first moved here, his house was across the river, right directly from where we're standing. Same Swanee River. That's Granddaddy there with Dwight, I think, is standing side of him. Alan's behind him, and Tracy going up the hill. And Kent standing there besides Dwight. This is the backyard at Grandma's in Florida. Richard's trying to figure out what part of the dog. There's Alan and Granddaddy. White with Richard and old Red. Governor Hill Lake in Dixie County, Cross City. Alan holding Richard with the pigs in the background. That's Joe and Regina on the side. That's Lee's husband, Joe. Backyard with Granddaddy. And Regina, Lee's mama's sister that lives in Jacksonville. Gina, the little one, Debbie, and Lee's husband, Joe. That's their son, Ronald, and Grandma, all the little kids. That looks like no, it looks like Clyde Day when he's butchering a hog. This is Granny's house. Probably one of the only pictures you'll see of it. This is Lion Safari. So, Titusville. We left Orlando and moved to Titusville on Lima Drive. There's your dad's grapefruit tree. Kids are playing in the backyard. Pee-wee laying in the grass. Remember little Pee-wee? Mean little thing. That's Tracy and Alan with Kent and Richard. It looks like Christmas or a birthday party. I'm not sure which.
Looks like a fish's head on the table.
It might be your cake. Made a birthday cake and for your dad and put the fish head on it. It was frozen in the freezer. Real birthday cake without the fish head. Must be blowing out the candles. Time.
Somewhere.
Well, this is Richard's birthday. This is the kids in the neighborhood and the rocket ship birthday cake. I still have the rocket ship, Richard. We'll bring it to you. There's Grandma and Granddaddy, Christmas time. A party. They're all lined up on the couch. Can you name all of them, Kent? Oh, there you are, between the two red-headed boys. A couple of these might be out of place. This is in front of the house in Titusville. They were just constructing the one next door. Look at Rick. He had little freckles on his nose.
Where'd they get that look from?
Is he trying to keep from laughing or crying? Weren't they lovable?
Mm-hmm.
Another Christmas time. Looks like a tent. Did you get a tent?
Looks like a sad sack.
Looks pretty bad. Boy hats.
Looks like John.
Looks like Dad took his hat away from him.
Resurrected Carmen Gia.
This was at Easter time. We were out at the park in Titusville.
Somebody's looking for a moonshot, I think.
Something must be up there in the sky. These are two neighbors from our street stand inside of me. That's it going up someplace.
If you look real close, you can see it setting on the pad. Setting on the pad again.
Oh, you can see it.
There it goes.
Where? Where? There's that big fish.
Is that the 12-pounder?
Well, it had a big mouth. There's the mouth. All that fishing sure is tiring. Don and Richard, when we went to Daytona Beach, Gene and Don had flew down in September or October to visit. That's another space shot. Kent's blowing out his candles. That's little Mary next door, sight of you, Kent. Look at all the gifts.
Didn't get one, apparently.
Oh, Rick, what's the matter? A Halloween costume party we went to. Still celebrating that birthday. Look at all the balloons. You think we didn't go to trouble. Oh, this is Rick's birthday party with all the balloons. He's laughing there. Oh, Rick's blowing out his candles with a spaceship. It's like somebody stuffing their face. Joanne, Karen, and Cindy came down and spent Christmas with us one year. Evidently, Joanne without her makeup.
Must be the mall in Titusville where you saw Santa Claus.
Cindy,
That's Karen.
Karen had a birthday, so we had a birthday cake while they were there. Her birthday's the end of December. Dory came down for Thanksgiving one year. Jim and Dory.
Is that little Jimmy?
No, that's little Ricky
No.
and Aunt Dory, and looks like me or somebody in the kitchen in the back.
We're back in Indiana at John's old house. We had a pool party.
Where we're visiting. That's Kent standing in front of me on the side. Kim's got the ball with Louise sitting in the chair. This is Joanne with Mildred sitting side of her, Jean and Teresa with Cheryl in front of her. There's Don lighting a cigarette with Grandpa side of him.
Looks like Uncle Chubb way in the back there drinking a beer. Uncle Chubb.
And that's Kent been over there. I can't tell who that is. Looks like Kim in the background. Same group. Jean and Teresa with Cheryl. We only got 250 pictures of this party. Grandma and Grandpa's house. Debbie, Janet, Grandma in the background. Want 4th of July. What lake was it, Ryan?
Hamilton Lake.
It's like Kent's trying to climb out of the playpen. But the Mark, and that's Donna. Home that year we stopped at in Chattanooga at Rock City, the high point in Chattanooga. Kent's going through one of the tunnels made out of rock. That ledge down there, we have a picture taken up closer of it. Swinging bridge.
Lover's Leap. 20 states from one spot.
Oh, there's Rick and Kent. Looks like Rick's ready to jump off Lover's Leap. Standing at the point of Lover's Leap. Kent, Rick, and me.
It's like you're threading a needle there.
We're standing there to the side. I'm holding Rick. There's the waterfalls and the bridge. See how lucky you were, Rick? Scares me to look at them. They had a lot of little scenes set up inside the caves. This one was of the elves. And standing in front of the waterfalls with all the elves. In St. Petersburg, after we got back home from our trip. St. Petersburg, we lived on Orchid Drive. All the streets were named after flowers.
This has to be an Auburn party.
Kent's birthday party. We were up there at Christmas. I guess one year for Kent's birthday.
There's Steve Lemper with his teeth.
Roland, must be Lisa. That's Becky and Donna with Mike in the background.
See John Bauman.
That's Lynn with Mark, and the blonde is Teresa. In St. Petersburg, the screened porch behind the house. This is New York, when we went to visit your dad for the month of July. What year? Chinatown in New York City. Chinatown in New York City. Gee, Kent, looks like you match the lady behind you. Bus. I'm not sure what we were trying to see, but we were still in New York. On Long Island to like a zoo, feeding zoo. Or a petting zoo. There's flowers there. We all have our head stuck in flowers. It doesn't show up too well.
What they after, Rick?
This is one of the buildings downtown Cincinnati, New York.
Can you see the Statue of Liberty there? Somewhere through the fog and haze, there's a statue.
See it? That's the ferry we took over to the statue behind you guys there. From out on the island.
Liberty Island, that would be the Skyline, that's probably, those twin towers would be the World Trade Center, probably, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they were just in construction when we were there. They weren't finished. You can see look at the motel where we stayed. Remember the swimming pool? You guys went swimming? This was taken from up at the room, the balcony of the room. Up to Connecticut, and this was a fire tower that we climbed up. Standing at the fence, his mommy walk across the parking lot, back to Connecticut, the fire tower here. This is on our trip to to California. We were in New Orleans. That's Mama standing there with her back to us, and Alan. You can see Rick and Kent and me. These will be taken all across from New Orleans all the way to California, the next few. Still in New Orleans, it signs a Deep South candy store. Inside the cathedral on Jefferson Square in New Orleans. Cemetery. They're all buried above ground. They don't have any buried in the ground due to the high water level. Oh, there's Mama and Richard standing on one of the tombs. Wall to the left. If you can't afford the big tombs, you're buried in the wall. This is in New Mexico and Albuquerque. We picked up 2 Mexicans along the way. There's the Mexicans again in New Orleans. We're somewhere between here and there. The Sandria Mountains in New Mexico out from Albuquerque. There's a big high ski lift, and we went up to the top. You can see the ski lift a little in the background. It was taken from the ski lift. This is in August. We're in the Painted Desert. This is in Arizona. That's your dad, Grandma, Alan, and Kent and Richard. This is in Salt Lake City. And that's probably the temple there behind us. That's the big temple that's in Salt Lake City. You 3 guys went swimming in the Salt Lake. There you're washing the salt off of you. See the mountains in the background? You float on the water there. It's so heavy with salt. That's the industry still in Salt Lake. Magical world of Disneyland. This is Kings Canyon when we went camping, I think over Labor Day weekend. Real clear water.
Grand Canyon. No, not Grand Canyon.
No, it is. It's not showing up in Canyon. The colors don't show up real well in our film, but it's this is Petrified Forest. Looks like Grandma's going to take off and fly through the Petrified Forest.
Painted Desert.
Oh, Kent's hiding behind a bush there. Looks like some Indian writing. This is the Petrified Forest. Tree across there is all petrified. It's stone. There you guys are standing on the petrified wood. It's just like stone. Here we are, another one, Grand Canyon. other rim, the north rim of the Grand Canyon. You can see the hotel and lodge on the other side. That's the river,
Oh, Colorado.
Colorado River, that runs through the Grand Canyon. The cottage that we stayed in at Grand Canyon, we were inside the national park. Trail down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, you can see the trail there. It looks like there might be something, I don't know if it's donkeys or just people. We're in Sequoia National Park. That's the big tree. We're all standing at the base of it. You can't tell too well. I think this is the tree that Rick got lost around. The trip up to Sequoia, this was taken in October. We were on our way there in October when we had a big snowfall. That's the waterfalls. Angel, is that what it was called? Angel Waterfall?
I don't know.
The waterfall is in the background. That's Richard with his bear gun. Falls. Shows the mountain range. This is Sequoia National Park. That's one of the big redwoods. This is the base of the big tree. General Sherman, I think, is the name of the tree. This is Death Valley. And this is the wagons they used in the mines.
There's the borax mines, and that's how they carried the borax out of Death Valley. They started out with 20 mule teams, and then they ended up with the locomotives.
This is in Death Valley. This is
Scotty's Castle.
Death Valley Scotty. He had buried treasure in Death Valley. He built this castle, and this treasure has never been discovered to this day. This is Badwater. The sign says, near this spot is the lowest land in the Western Hemisphere, 282 feet below sea level. On the cliff above is a marker indicating where the ocean surface would be. There will be a picture of it later that you, the marker that says sea level. I'll back it up. This is the Devil's Golf Course. It says salt and water searing golf balls. They're more than 1,000 feet thick beneath the Devil's Golf Course. Great horizontal forces
Somebody has a golf ball in their hand.
This is a desert scene. We're standing there in the background. To the side. This is the house in California. Back to a desert scene. I know where the swallows return every March 17th, and we were there, I think, on the 18th, the day after they had returned.
Kings Canyon? Probably.
This is a waterfall taken at Sequoia. First Communion with the church in the background. This was in Yellowstone. There is a bear there. Can you close in on him? There's the bear. This is the meadow in Yellowstone. One of the lakes in Yellowstone. I think there's a moose on the other side. This is Yellowstone Falls. One of the most beautiful falls there is. Geyser. This is the geyser. Old Faithful. This is the lodge, one of the lodges there. Mama said that most of them were tore down and they had put new ones in the place.
One of the steam pots.
Somebody had been fishing and caught some fish. This is our camper at our campsite. There's a bridge across the steam pots. It's like ice crystals in the background, but it's really hot
Salt.
salt forms from the heat. Oh, there's our elk. There's your elk, Kent. Oh, there's more of that hot lava. It's not lava, it's hot salt beds, but it looks like ice crystals. But that's a good shot of them. Get a close-up of that. Oh, it shows up good. There's the meadow with the snow-capped mountains in the background. The moose, or the elk again. This is our campsite. This is not our camper. It was just a shot taken down the road from our camp. This is the fishing lake where you guys and your dad went fishing. Back to a bear. Close up. There's a bear. That's the lodge in the background to the right side of Old Faithful. This is Old Faithful going off.
Yeah, it's Yellowstone Lake, I think.
Big lake. There's Dad with the fish he caught. Trout, weren't they?
Yep.
Those good trout. Now close in. I think these were taken with Kent's camera. Kent, you took these. We have just a few at the end that you took with your camera out there. This was you, Kent, at your first communion, taken with your camera by the statue. This one, guys, is the only one taken of the area where we lived. This is the street we lived on. You can see the camper in the background, the high school down at the bottom of the hill with all the hills around. Kent, this is the only one we have, and you took it. This is a mirage. This is one taken, two pictures taken on the same roll of film. One was in our living room by the fireplace of me, and the other one of Kent with the Mary in the background. I think this turned out real good, Kent. I don't think your camera focused too well, Kent, if you remember. They were a little out of focus. Thing we found in the backyard, what was it called?
Iguana?
Well, it wasn't an iguana, but it was like one, the big lizard. I can't think of the name of it. You'll have to remind me of what the name is. But that's the only picture we have of it. fair. This was taken at the fair there in Saugus. I think where we had the grease pig contest and the pole climbing contest. This was taken in front of the house, still again with your camera, Kent. That's me, Grandma, and Debbie from Jacksonville. They came out on the bus to visit us, and Mama went with us to Yellowstone. While we were in California, Bob and John came out and visited. Well, I think your dad went to Las Vegas, picked them up, and brought them back. He's wrapping tomatoes, putting them in the bag to take home with him. This looks like the temple in Salt Lake City, Kent. It was one of the films that you had. I'm not real sure. This is one of your bear pictures, Kent. Will that get a close up? I think the moose is on the other side of the lake here. There was a wedding while we were out. The guy worked with your dad, and I was, what was I, maid of honor? Were you best man? And this is the picture of the wedding party and the guys that worked out there. And they were from Florida. In fact, she was from Brevard County. Was it she?
Mm.
That's the bride with her bridesmaid. This is the family all dressed up. Now we're back to Jacksonville. We moved back to Jacksonville. And this is Christmas with Granddaddy. They all came over and we spent Christmas Eve together. It's Lee with our azalea bush. It's Christmas. This is Christmas with Grandma. Margaret and Marvin to the side. It's Granddaddy with his back to us. That's Joe coming in the door, Lee's husband. And we went to Marineland at St. Augustine. We only have about 300 of these pictures. We'll only show you a few. Man-eating shark.
I think we're back in Gatorland.
It was a trip we made. This was a trip up to Michigan the summer before we moved to Indiana. Jean and her kids and us went up to Mackinac, and this is one of the scenes along the road. This is Jacksonville. This was the end of that roll of film. Jacksonville, Richard and the kid next door, Richard, the one that you remember. Jacksonville, Kent, with that's the sister of the little kid that was with Richard. This is in Fort Lauderdale. Your dad went out with Marvin Brand and he was diving. There's a submarine behind, and he went down and gathered some lobster, didn't he?
Submarine.
This is the first Christmas we moved to Indiana. Your dad left his car at Ricky's, and we had to go dig it out. Looks like you'd made an igloo. This is the trip when we went to Mackinac Island, not earlier. This is Paul Bunyan, Big Blue. This is the fort on Mackinac Island. This is the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. That's Jean and the kids, and I see Rick, or Ken, I don't see Rick. This is the ferry on the way either going or coming to the island. This is downtown on the island. They use nothing but the horse-drawn carriages. The tall building there on the waterfront is the hotel we stayed in.
Mackinac Bridge.
We went to the Wisconsin Dells. You guys took a helicopter trip. This is when you're getting on the helicopter, taking off, and when you returned. We were all dressed up for a wedding. This is Becky's wedding. The next few will be for the wedding. Get close in. Oh, look at those dressed up guys. I'll get close in a few. Kent must have taken this one. Oh, I meant to say this was Becky's first wedding. Back to the winter on the farm. Can you get closer in, or are we too far away? There. Oh, just. This is up in Michigan when we went mushrooming. Betty and Howard were with us. This is the cabin we stayed in on the lake. This is Christmas time in the basement in Butler. Pool party in the backyard. This was taken probably the first couple of years we were there, before the deck was even put on. Family portrait. That's Lisa in the background, between your dad and Janet, and I think Cheryl there by Dave's knee. Mrs. Myers sitting there in the chair by Lynn. What a handsome looking brood. Another Christmas tree. Front of the church, that's Bernard and Blanche. More family portraits taken over at Janet's. We only have 650 of these. Looks like a bunch of hippies. Back to the snow. Back to lots of snow. This must be the winter of, what was it, 78?
Somebody's sitting way above the snowplow that's trying to get through there.
Christmas time. Kent's got his hands full. Rick's got a game called Code Name Sector. Is that the submarine game? Might know. Kent's got his hands full. Oh, it's a basketball game.
Might know your mother has her hands full.
Looks like a microwave. Might know your dad's playing the TV game. Look at that sportster in the back with a basketball twirling on his finger. Hi, Rick. He's waving at us. He's opening his sub game. I don't know what you guys have in your hand there. Is it a snow shovel?
Looks like a mop. Time to go to work.
I think they bought a snow shovel for their dad.
Sunset.
Kent's trying to dig his way to his basketball net. Does that look like a bug sitting there?
Cockroach.
Yeah. This is Gladys's house.
Kent on a fishing trip to Canada. And the Indian reservation is that?
It was a fort up in Canada. I can't remember the name of the place that we were at. This is our trip to Hawaii in '84. That's Mama with the lady that went with her, Miss Peach.
There's your dad and your mother.
Your dad taking hula lessons. Oh.
Arizona Monument.
Waikiki Beach.
Back to Arizona.
This is on the island of Hawaii, the Big Island. This is the Japanese garden. We flew over to the Hilo side. This is still the Japanese garden. This is the fish market where they bring all the daily catch in. They lay them out and sell them. This is the gardens at Uncle Billy's where we stayed. This is the lobby of Uncle Billy's with your dad watching the hula girls. This is the flower shop where they grow all of the flowers, orchids, paracanthers, all of these flowers. These are the orchids that they're growing. This is the volcano. The volcano crater. We're looking across to the other side of it. That's the smoking from the volcano pits. This is the volcano. The lower part there is where it bubbles. The soft lava comes up. This is the black beaches caused from the lava flows. Close that. This is inside the small church on the beach there by the black beaches. This is back to Uncle Billy's in the lobby. This is the stairs leading down to one of the big waterfalls. This is the sign inside the lobby at Uncle Billy's. It says, in case of tidal wave, remain calm, pay your bill, and run like hell. This is some scene shot around the house in Butler just before we left that last summer. There's your tree, Rick, that you planted. This is on our trip to Las Vegas. We were at the airport getting ready to leave. Flying into Las Vegas that night. There's Silver City, where we did most of our gambling. Prime rib dinners, $3.99. Weren't too bad either. This is our trip out to Red Candy Mountain. They had wild donkeys, and they had a history of being real mean. So there's the Red Candy Mountains. More of the wild burros. They were known to bite and kick.